a lot of people talk about a contract for deed. It's also called a land contract. And if you guys don't know, a contract for deed, it's where the buyer acquires possession of the house immediately and the seller remains title until all payments are made. So is there any difference from what when you call, and again, contract for deed, some people call it a
agreement for deed or a land contract, right?
Yeah, or a land contract, or contract for sale. People call it different things. Is there any difference between what you're talking about and this?
Nope, that is exactly what we use on the sell side. And the way I word it to my buyers, and this is a great way to put a visual in their head. They ask, well, how does this work? Or what's the difference? And I say, when you buy a house from the bank, the deed goes in your name and then you pay for 30 years. When you buy a house from me, you pay for 30 years and then the deed goes in your name. It's the exact same end result. And that's the way I explain it to them.
Yeah, I love this model. And I'm just thinking, one of the things that you mentioned is, it's funny because Matt Saunders and I love him. He's like one of my favorite people, and you are too. And he's like, but he always tells me, he's like, Chantel, I do the same thing for him as him. But when I buy a property, I'm like more particular. And he's like, Chantel, you get more attached to the property. He's like, I don't care. Like what you just said. I'm like, well, I want to make sure it's in a good area. And I want to make sure this, and I want to make sure all this stuff. And he's like, Chantel, just let all that go. He's like, who cares? Do the numbers work? Yes or no? And so I want you to speak to that.
I can remember with Matt, so I'm going to use him as an example. I can remember when he was first starting to do the as-is sale like we do, and I went to a house that he purchased, and I believe it was in Norfolk, or it could have been South Norfolk in Chesapeake, and he said, well, I want your opinion to see this as it is, and he was going to spend about $30,000 to renovate it and then rent it for about $1,200 a month. And I went out with him to look at it, and I told him we can slow flip it right now and get $1,200 a month without spending the 30. And he was almost in disbelief, like, no, there's no way. Why would anyone? Nobody's going to do that. And it got filled right away, and he was hooked on it from that point. It was like, okay, because what happens, and you know it, when I was a conventional landlord, I spent all this money to make the house perfect. And sometimes you have somebody great and they'll take care of it for a bunch of years. And sometimes 6 months later, they undid all the work you did, and now you have to do it again. And this way, they're doing it. They're spending their own money, their own time, their own energy, and they're also getting the benefit of it. They're getting the benefit and the burden of homeownership. And we are operating strictly like a bank. I tell my people, I always say you can go to any city in the country, right, and look at the tall buildings, and they have bank logos on the side. And the reason they do is because we're all scurrying around and doing the work. We're fixing the air conditioning unit, going to court for an eviction. We're renting it. We're answering calls. And then we collect this money and we send it on up to them every month. That's what everybody does. And with the slow flip model, we kind of flipped it on its head to where we're at the top of the building now. And everybody else is running around doing that stuff, and they're just sending us our checks. And then
love this.
And the first of the month, we have all these payments come in, and we don't have all the work that went into traditional landlording.
So obviously you started this in 2016. So it would be, for you to know if it went all the way, it'd be like 2046, right? Like in order for it to go.
2011 is when I started the smoke flips. Okay. Yeah. Yep. But I've had dozens and dozens of them pay us off already. So what happens is, especially during these last few years, the way our market's been, I have properties, and I'm going to tell you numbers, and they're staggering, but I've had properties that I bought for $20,000, $25,000, sold them the same day for $89,000. So you're like, wow, that's incredible, right? $89,000. That person then renovated it, maybe kept it for 2, 3, 5 years. But this last couple of years, we had such a boom. They turned around and sold them for $199,000, $219,000. And I go to closing, and I'm getting my $89,000 minus whatever they paid down. But some of them are walking away with a check for $80,000, $90,000, $100,000. And so it's not just me winning. My buyers are winning as well, as long as they do what they're supposed to do. I have buyers that are killing it. I have one buyer. We sell to a lot of investors. I have one buyer that has 13 homes from me right now. And he does a program, and I don't really know exactly what the program is, but it's something that he gets paid by the government. It's like transitional housing for people, I think, getting out of jail or something. But he's making like $2,000 per month per house and paying me about $875. And he's got 13 of these houses with me now. And he loves it. Every month he's telling me how much he loves it because he's got this government paying him money. He just manages it. The government, the money's coming in from the government, then he pays me the $875 and he keeps the difference. And he's always looking for more houses. And so a lot of times, I know I'm rambling on, but a lot of times people hear what we do and they think we're the only ones winning. Oh, that's great for you, but now somebody else must be getting screwed. And I'm like, you got to talk to the people who are buying the houses because most of them are crushing it as well. It's a win all the way around for the buyer, the seller, and our lenders.
So tell me, number one, how do you find I know a lot of people are listening and they're like, there's no $30,000 properties out there. So how do you find those $30,000, $50,000 properties and who are you selling them to? Like, give us an example of who all these different buyers are so we can get a glimpse of that.
So how we find them varies, and I'm going to tell you why. I buy in multiple states. So I primarily started in Hampton Roads and mostly only bought in Hampton Roads. And I still buy. I'm closing two this week. One in Hampton, I'm getting for $36,000. And I just closed on one on Palmyra in Norfolk. I paid $60,000. So I paid a little bit more for it, but it's a nice house. So I still get them in our area. And in our area, I do them through traditional marketing. I do them through direct mail. I do them through my website, through SEO, and through networking. But I go on appointments. The ones in our area, I go on appointments, but I'm also a wholesaler. So most of the houses I'll end up wholesaling. And then it's the certain ones that meet the slow flip criteria that I keep. If I'm able to wholesale it and make 20, 30 grand right now, I'm going to wholesale it. That's what I do. But the lower end housing, as soon as I get there, I know the only option for this one is going to be a slow flip. But if you look outside of our market, which I also buy in Missouri, I buy in Illinois, and a bunch of our people in the group now are buying in Indiana, there's no marketing. They are just readily available. Like if you go on even Zillow or Real Estate Agent or go in Facebook investor groups on Facebook, there's tons of them available. And we're buying, like I have, I think 47 I have in a town called Cahokia, Illinois. And I've got them from property managers and I'm buying them for 20 grand and they're getting $875 a month. It's crazy the return on them. So we're paying 20 grand, 22 grand, 18 grand and getting back $875 a month right away. I mean, and it's on a 30-year note. The buyers love it because a lot of them are doing Section 8 and they're getting $1,300 a month from the government. So they're paying us the $875 and they're keeping the spread. So it's a win all around. So for my local market, I do marketing. That's where I mostly find them. When I go to the other markets, they're readily available. You don't even have to do marketing. You can just pull them right off of available properties. Now, who our buyer is, this is what's really interesting. Our buyer, a lot of them are contractors. We had a lot of contractors. We got investors. When these seminars that come in and out of town and they're training people to find rental properties, one of the things they teach them is to look for sellers who are willing to owner finance, look for ads that say low money down and seller will finance. They're training them to be our customer. They're teaching them the old method, the old way I used to do it. They're teaching them to make their little $200 a month spread. I'm okay with that. I make my money, let them make their money. They're building their own portfolio. They're making their $200 a month spread or whatever it may be, and we make our money. And primarily we sell to investors. Occasionally we get homeowners, but the bulk of our business is to other investors.
I want to tell you, one of the reasons why I joined and I just love CHANTEL is that I can get 100% commission, I get revenue share, and I get stock. I am making thousands of dollars every single month in revenue share and stocks. And I now don't have to work nights and weekends on real estate anymore. I've actually never been to a real estate agent's retirement party, and I want to be the first one that people are coming to at a young age. And I want to share with you some of my favorite resources. So if you go to joincanzel.com/free, there's a couple that I want you to download. One is a 20 free lead generating PDF. It's going to help you generate leads for free that you can download, as well as there's one on how to double your business. I don't want you to miss it. Go download it today. joincanzel.com/free.
So give us like 3 pieces of advice. So if someone says, I'm going to start this, maybe some people have cash right now where they say, I can just buy it. I don't even need the loan on it to get it. I can just buy cash. Give us the 3 pieces of advice that you'd say, here's what you absolutely need to be aware of. Like, this is some things that could really make a slippery slope, what would that be?
Well, even our worst case scenarios have still worked out well. And I told you, I had one that had a fire and it was burned up, and I was a little distressed. I'm going to tell you, I bought a package of 24 houses and I did not properly go through all of them. Most of them were occupied and I just did drive-bys on them. A couple of them were vacant and they were boarded up. And so I suspected he boarded them up for safety. And then after, I was in the Bahamas actually, and I sent a guy by to do pictures and video, and he's like, "Did you know this one had a fire?" And I was like, "No, I guess I should have checked it better." And it was all burned up inside. And I was a little mad at first. And then I was like, you know what? I paid $21,000 each. I said, even if I threw that house away, I got them for $22,000, right? It was still a good deal. But we still stuck out our signs. You know, he did the signs, did the video, and it still sold right away. And I was like, that was like a worst case scenario. And it still sold because our buyers need us. People that want to, like if you're a contractor and you don't have all your tax returns and your credit and everything in line to go to a bank, they still want to do real estate investing or still want to flip or still want to have rentals. They need us to be able to buy them. So a couple of things I would say is, one is, don't wait to start. My number one guy in my program has 87. Just today, it turned to 87. It was 86 houses. He has 87 houses now. He waited, and I just did a podcast with him. He waited 18 months till he bought his first one, from the time he learned this till the time he did it. And we were talking about that, and he's crushing it. But he's like, if I had just started when I learned it, I would already have 18 months ahead of these houses being free and clear. His first ones come free and clear this December coming up. So he's just going to hit his 5th year now. So number one is, I would say, don't wait. Number two is, I'm going to say, is everybody has limiting beliefs, right? Most people, when I talk about this, the first thing they're going to say is, there's no such thing as houses for 30 grand. I'm even beside myself sometimes when I see some of these houses. I'm like, how is this house $20,000? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But it doesn't change the fact that it's there. You know, it's there. People will say, yeah, you know, this is another thing they say. They'll say, yeah, but they're in bad neighborhoods. You don't want to have houses in this bad neighborhood. And so I recently was out in Illinois. I was there for a meeting, but I went a day early so I can drive by, because I own so many houses. I've never seen any of them. So I said, let me go a day early and let me drive by some of them. And I was shocked. I videoed the area and I'm like, this is a nice neighborhood. Why is it that way? I was not feeling unsafe. I wasn't feeling scared. There's kids on big wheels playing. It was nothing at all distressful about it, right? But then Illinois and St. Louis, they have a slightly declining population. So that's a big thing. People are like, yeah, but it's not a growing market. It's a declining population. So you're not getting appreciation. Like here, your houses that you have, Chantel, you're getting appreciation. You're getting massive appreciation, especially because you're buying the nicer ones. You're getting massive appreciation. The ones out there, we're getting no appreciation, but we're getting the cash. So I'm like, I don't care. I'm not in this for appreciation. I'm in this for the cash flow. And so we have very little, if any, outlay of money and massive amount of cash flow. And the other thing,
I want to say one thing, because when you say for the first 5 years that you're not making money, that's only if someone's listening right now and they've got $30,000 sitting around, well, then they would put that $30,000 in and then they are making money from day one. So right. I do want to put that out there, because that's another way to think of it. If you've got $30,000 sitting in the bank, why not put it into this and then talk about perfect cash flow right there?
Right. You know what? Our average return, you're going to die when I tell you this, especially you're talking about people that have money sitting in the bank. Our bad deals, like the worst deals that we do the lowest of numbers, is a 20% return. Our average return is 30 to 33% return cash on cash. It's unheard of for anybody. You know, the reason people don't believe in this is because they say that's too good to be true. Nobody can get that kind of return. And our bad deals are a 20% return. That's a staggering amount of return, you know? And so the other thing I would give as a piece of advice is if you don't have the 30 grand or 60 grand or 300 grand, don't let the fact that you don't have money fool you into convincing yourself that you can't do this. Because even like I was telling you, my number one guy that has 68, he did it with $0, like didn't have $1 to his name. Now he's 29 years old. He was only 25 when he started with us. Didn't have any money at all. It's a limiting belief. People believe, well, I don't have money. That's great for him, but I can't do it because I don't have money. You do not need to have money. There is an abundance of private money out there that wants to be earning a 12% return. So you're helping them while you're getting helped at the same time. Again, everybody wins. So I think that's a big problem we have. Sometimes I'll talk with people, or I'll have new people join into my program, and they're like, yeah, but I don't have any money to buy these houses. And I'm like, forget, even if you do have money, don't spend it. You don't need to use your money. If you want to, you can. If you don't want to wait out time, but you don't need to have money to do it. You just have to learn the process and go through the process. That's all.
So good. So, it's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine who has quite a few rental properties, and they said to me, I'm getting really discouraged with rental properties right now. And he was talking about how he's like, even if he had a couple rentals, let's say they were $200,000 a year. I mean, $200,000 is what he bought it for. He was getting $1,500 a month. And he was like, my taxes and insurance. So if you think about $1,500 a month, he's collecting about $18,000 a year, right? But out of that 18,000, he was saying my taxes are 3,000. So now bring it down to 15. My insurance is 3,000. So bring that down to 12. He's like, I ended up in this particular property. He put $6,000 because they needed this and they needed that. That was 6,000. And then with the property management fees that were just crazy, it ended up was like 3,000. So for the whole year, and here's something he owned free and clear.
Yeah.
After all those shenanigans and all the repairs, and I will tell you, I've got quite a few rentals, and the last couple months, I told my husband, I'm like, it has been nothing but repair. This takes all of that out of the way.
Yeah. It's absolutely a game changer. It's absolutely a game changer. I used to do the repairs. I can remember before we committed to this, I had my rentals one time in QuickBooks. I saw from July to September, I had $250,000 in maintenance, and I lost it. I said, that's it. We're not doing any more repairs. I don't know how, but I'm not doing it. I'm fixing it. They're ruining it. And we committed to changing our model. And it's just different because some people, like I said, some people love their home and they want to, be proud of it. And so in my model, I'm not proud of my home. Somebody else is proud of that same home. Somebody else is driving by and saying that's my rental. Me, I'm just like Bank of America. They're just sending me the check. I'm not involved in the emotional aspect of the actual home. But I have friends that have 100 rentals, conventional rentals, and they do, and a lot of them did sub-twos to acquire them, and they churn. They make no money. They're bringing in $100,000, $200,000 a month. But then after all the outlay, they're like, well, we didn't make anything, or I'm down a little, or I'm up a little. I might have made 10 grand, lost 10 grand. And over the course of a year, they might have 100 rentals, but they're not making any money. They're not making anything. They're just churning and churning, all for someday. One of my companies is called Someday Properties. All for someday, this will all be a good idea once they're finally paid down, or once the rents finally go up high enough. And I played that game, and I'm not playing it again. I'm all about the cash flow now.
Man, I love it. So now you teach people, I know you've written a book, and you teach people how to do this step by step. So if you're listening to this and you're like, yes, tell us how they can get started and how they can get your book.
So the easiest way, so I wrote a book called The Art of the Slow Flip. And I think I told you earlier, I'm going to give everybody that listens a free copy of that. And they can go just to slowflip.com, slowflip.com. And I have like 250 copies that are printed right now. And they can just pay the shipping and handling. I think it's $7.95. And we'll send it right out to them. That's the best place to start, because I always want somebody to know the whole process first, so that some people will read it and it doesn't resonate with them. It might go against what they believe. Like they want to love their house and want to be into management and want to go in and knock on doors and collect from their tenants. And some people might be into that. I know guys that still mow lawns on their rentals. And I'm like, hey, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I just bought a house in the Bahamas, and my plan is to be spending, as soon as my son leaves for college, to be spending 3-4 months at a time in the Bahamas. I don't want to be running around doing work on rental properties. So I generally advise people to read the book first. And then if that's what resonates with you, then to go a step further. And, and I'm everywhere. So anybody that wanted to find me, you can just Google my name or go to any social media platform and I'm there. But I always think that's the best place to start, is just reading the book, so you even know if it resonates with you. Because some people will love the idea. Most people do. And some people won't. And the reason is, my whole premise is all about freedom and quality of life, and not about Lamborghinis and yachts. Not to say you can't have all that, but that's not what I teach. I generally teach people to come up with their freedom number. How much do you need to be free? And then how many slow flips do we need to get you there? And make a plan. I generally tell people I can get anybody free in 5 to 7 years. And that's why now I can't get you Lamborghinis and yachts and mansions in 5 to 7 years, but I can set people free, meaning more money coming in every month than you have going out. And that's kind of the premise of our program.
I went to this huge leadership conference and I got this book and got a chance to meet so many amazing people. But there's a book out there that I want to tell you guys to get. It's called Leadership Not by the Book. It's by the CEO of Hobby Lobby. And I would say in the last year, that book has had the most impact on me and my husband. He actually gave 50% of his money from profit from Hobby Lobby back to God. You guys all know that that's my passion too. My goal is by the time I'm 54, I want to live on 10% of my income and give 90% away. And so that's my goal. And this right here would be the exact way to do it. Like, this is like brilliant. And I love big thinkers. I love that you came on here. One of the things I love about you, Scott, is that you're just like me. Like, I just give all the information. When I learn something, I am an open book. I'm not like, oh, let's keep it. We are all about that abundance mindset. Like, let's teach as many people as we can how to have this freedom. So tell listeners a little bit about where they can find you and where they can follow you on social. Give them your social handles.
So I'm Scott Jelinek everywhere. So I'm TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm Scott Jelinek everywhere. So I'm easy enough to find. But the best first step is to read the book. And that's why I highly, I've gotten great reviews on it, but most people that have read it, you can change without even doing a further step, without going through a program, without doing anything, just reading the book. I held nothing back, and there's enough information for someone to get started and actually go through the process. And raising money is in there as well, without having to even take another step if you didn't want to. I think that's the best place to get started.
Slowflip.com, you guys. Make sure you go there. He's giving you a free copy. So generous, so kind. Scott, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. That was fun.
All right. You guys stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up in just a few. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a rating and a review so we can get this out to more agents. And tune in next week for another power-packed episode. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Podcast.